Well, nothing particularly emphatic about that victory, but it is a victory nonetheless. The Sooners open the 2025 season with a 35-3 victory over Illinois State on Saturday night at Owen Field. And we are here on the OU Insider Under the Visor post-game podcast to break it all down for you. Odds are this will be the shortest post-game podcast of the year because, quite frankly, there's just not a lot to talk about coming out of this game. I am Parker Thune, joined on this pod by Jesse Crittenden in lieu of Brandon Drum, who is feeling under the weather after covering the game at Owen Field. So hopefully he didn't eat some bad meat or something. Hopefully he didn't get like food poisoning or something. But Brandon is on the sideline. We're holding him out of an abundance of caution, much like Brent Venables. And Jesse is riding along with me on this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor post-game pod. Jesse, we'll start to get deep into the weeds here in just a second, try to attack this from all the requisite angles, but just overarching thoughts tonight after the Sooners dispatch Illinois State in rather workmanlike fashion, 35-3 in the season opener.
Look, I mean, I think OU fans will take a win, right? Especially after how bad last year was and how much pressure there is for this season. You'll take a win, right? And there's a few different things that we can talk about, some interesting, some not as interesting. But to me, it was about the most ho-hum, run-of-the-mill season opening win you're going to get. I mean, Oklahoma was a 35-point favorite. They won by 32. I think outside of maybe those first couple of drives by the offense that you get the 3 and out and then the fumble, maybe some fans had some PTSD from a year ago, and we'll break it down more. But the offense had almost 500 total yards. The defense, outside of a couple of broken plays, had no issues with Illinois State. They had 37 yards in the second half. This was, you expected a big win, a dominant win, and for the most part, that's what this was.
Before we get into breaking it down in a very regimented sort of way, first and foremost, I want to remind you guys that the Under the Visor podcast is brought to you every single week by Riverwind Casino. You know where it's at, off of I-35 and Highway 9. Riverwind Casino is the OKC area's premier gaming destination and has been for nearly 2 decades. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars, and dining options, plus the best live music in the metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also, the pod is brought to you in part by Jana King, the greatest team to ever clean, and a proud partner of OU Athletics and us at OUinsider.com. Providing spotless results and solutions from stadiums to any size business across the country. Check out which of their solutions is best for you or your business by going to janiking.com. That's JANIKING.com. With football season upon us, it is once again time to put your ball knowledge to the test and win real money with Prize Picks, which is very simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. So whether you're an NFL guru, a college football aficionado, whatever you want to play with Prize Picks, you can. Quick, easy. They put their members first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. They offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users, and sign up today. Download the Prize Picks app and use code OU Insider to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code OU Insider to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. And finally, folks, Mando Whole Body Deodorant. If you haven't heard us talk about Mando, if you don't have Mando in your personal care repertoire, you're going to want to start. And we're going to make it very convenient for you to start. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how often BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Mando nukes BO. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Now, Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers that have not yet experienced its magic. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, such as the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes, as well as free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers are going to get 20% off site wide with our exclusive code. So use code INSIDER at shopmando.com for 20% off site wide and free shipping. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. All right. Well, now that we got the bills paid, Jesse, let's start with the obvious. John Mateer looked really good tonight. Looked really good. He did throw an interception. He called it a bad ball, put it behind Deion Burks. There's probably some fault that lies with Burks on that interception as well. I don't know that you can lay it exclusively at the feet of either party, but it was John Mateer's first turnover of his young Oklahoma career. That said, you look at the numbers and the eye test throughout the game. Spectacular. 30 out of 37, 392 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. He added another on the ground, established a new program record for passing yards in a debut by an Oklahoma quarterback. And what stood out to me more than anything else, Jesse, was he processes so quickly and he's so decisive. He knows where he wants to go with the ball. He knows where he can go with the ball. And he's able to scan the field, go through his progressions without much of a hiccup. And if he needs to adjust, if the pocket's collapsing, we saw this on a couple of occasions, he's quick to react. Nothing seems to take him by surprise back there in the pocket. And I think for many folks watching that game tonight, even though it is Illinois State, and even though you're not going to all of a sudden throw John Mateer in the Heisman conversations based on one strong performance against an FCS opponent, it did feel so markedly different from the experience of watching Jackson Arnold play quarterback for Oklahoma in 2024, because there was just never really a point throughout the season where it seemed Arnold was comfortable back there. And Mateer seemed quite comfortable. Now, that comes with being a veteran who's not only been a starter at the P4 level before, but a successful one when you look back at the year he enjoyed at Washington State. But you also come to understand, I think it's kind of who John Mateer is. He's got a very poised demeanor back there, and that came through tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw a little bit of everything, and I think you mentioned Jackson Arnold there. I mean, I think the best way to kind of put this into perspective is John Mateer had 7 throws tonight of 20 yards or more. OU had 20 all of last season. That ranked 131st nationally. So OU had nearly half as many 20-yard receptions tonight as they did all of last season. And I think the drive that stood out to me the most was that third drive that he capped off with a touchdown run. He had 84. He accounted for 84 of the 94 yards on that drive. You saw a little bit of everything. You saw to start that drive, it was throwing it to Deion Burks down the sideline. Now, Deion Burks made a great catch. It was a really, really great catch by Deion Burks. But the thing that stood out to me, Parker, comparing it to last year, was John Mateer threw a ball for his receiver to go get. Like he put his receiver in a position to go make a play. And that was there last year amid all of the issues, there was both a reluctance to throw the ball and only throwing the ball if something was wide open, which it almost never was. And so on that play, he trusts Deion Burks to make a play. And then you saw him throw a couple of passes to get guys open. And then one throw that really stuck out to me was that Jacob Jordan throw. I think it was a 28-yarder to get down inside the 2. But that was scheme getting Jacob Jordan open, John Mateer knowing that throw was going to be open and then throwing it. And then obviously he capped it off with a touchdown run where it was a really nice physical run to the edge. So I think you saw a little bit of everything. Even he also had on that drive, he kind of did a Baker Mayfield-esque kind of juke a couple of defenders on a 2nd and 6 to get a first down. So not perfect. Certainly wasn't perfect performance, but I think you saw the glimpses even in a vanilla playbook in a not perfect performance. You saw why he was so highly coveted. His ability to make plays outside the pocket, his ability to keep plays on quarterback design runs, and not only just explosiveness down the field, passing down the field, but it was both schemes that were getting guys open, him anticipating guys getting open, and also a couple times where he just let his guys go make a play.
And it was a very vanilla offensive game plan for Oklahoma. And obviously, to a certain extent, that's by design. You got Michigan on deck. Illinois State is a team that you can out-athlete across the board, and Oklahoma did. And the Sooners did not cover tonight. The spread was 35.5. They won by 32.
Great teams cover. They didn't cover, so they're not a great team.
That may be. I guess this is the best way I can sum it up, Jesse. A lot of folks, and I've noticed this on social media and on the message boards, they don't think 35-3 against a team like Illinois State is good enough. Like that didn't move the needle for them. They're more alarmed than anything by the outcome today and just the experience of watching this Oklahoma team here in 2025. The 60 minutes of OU football that they've experienced isn't a 60 minutes that leaves them utterly convinced things are going to be that different from 2024. But as I see it, I look, I wasn't necessarily of the expectation that anything that happened today was going to drastically change my mind one way or another about this team's outlook in 2025. I feel no better. I feel no worse. I mean, Oklahoma did what they had to do tonight to dispatch an FCS team without putting too much on tape for next week's opponent, which will be a top 15 opponent coming to Owen Field. The one thing, the one thing that they're going to have to figure out is that running game. And it starts up front with the offensive line. And yes, you're nodding. Jesse is
Yes.
nodding
I knew.
emphatically right now. And look,
I knew.
Oklahoma did not play Derek Simmons tonight. They did not play Heath Ozida tonight. Jake Sexton played the first couple drives, and that was pretty much it. So three starters were not out there for Oklahoma tonight. More out of an abundance of caution than anything else, right? It's not like those guys are injured and going to be unavailable for the Michigan game. Simmons had cleared concussion protocol, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. The Sooners just didn't want to rush him back if they didn't have to, and they didn't have to play him tonight. He's been practicing, no concern there. Very little concern with Ozida and Sexton both, as I understand it. So this offensive line should be fully healthy, and it should be the best five out there for Michigan. But they weren't great tonight, and the backfield as a whole wasn't great either. Jaden Ott carried the ball once for a loss of 3 yards. His usage was really odd. We didn't see him take an offensive snap until the fourth quarter of the football game. And Javante Barnes was just ineffective, Jesse. Like, there's really no way around it. He didn't have it tonight. Tory Blaylock, on the other hand, looked great. Tory Blaylock looked fantastic. Tory Blaylock did more tonight to earn more opportunities out of the backfield than anybody else in the committee. Xavier Robinson was kind of ho-hum. Jaden Ott, again, one carry. What can you do? Javante Barnes had nothing going, man. But Tory Blaylock brought some juice to the table.
Yeah, no, he did. Look, I think about the running game as a whole, like it's such a weird thing to try to analyze because there are things I put stock into. There are things I don't put stock into. 32 carries for 103 yards is not going to cut it, especially against a team like Illinois State. It's not. But Parker, like, it's weird because in one way, I want to look at this and say that was not OU's best offensive line group. That's one. Two, it's hard to even know how to judge that group that played because Javante Barnes, the thing I do put stock into is Javante Barnes is not the running back for this team. And when everybody's healthy and available, probably shouldn't be getting time on the field. I mean, 7 carries for 9 yards. And while I think a lot of people reasonably have some concern about the offensive line, I think it's hard to know how much to put on them because there are definitely times where Javante Barnes is getting the ball and not seeing a hole. Like it's just not seeing a hole, or even if he sees it, doesn't have the speed to get there. And so I don't know how much stock to even put in the offensive line as a whole, but there's a few different things. One, the running back rotation still weird, just like last year. I don't know why Javante Barnes started the game. Tory Blaylock was awesome. That is something I put stock into. Tory Blaylock is awesome and should have a
Kid
role
runs
on this
tough,
team.
doesn't he? Like he's
Yeah.
fast, he's explosive, but he also just runs tough. Like he'll run through you if he has to.
Yeah, he's I mean, 8 carries for 44 yards, had 2 catches for 18 yards. He averaged over 6 yards a touch and looked really good doing it. Even if Jaden Knott is the fully realized number 1 running back for this team, I just think Tory Blaylock. Now we need to see it against better competition, obviously, right? But Tory Blaylock showed enough to me that like the fall camp stuff is real. I think he should be on the field. To me, Parker, I think the thing with the offensive line is like Logan Howland is not your starting tackle. Like he's not. It's you want Derek Simmons at that right tackle spot. To me, I think what I learned is OU's still got to realize they've still got to figure out who their best guys are. To me, I still have an inkling suspicion that at some point, Michael, you just got to play Michael Fasusi
Really?
and kind of throw him into the fire a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
Jacob Sexton. I'm not panicked. I guess the best way to summarize all this, Parker, is I'm not panicked by the offensive line tonight because I think there's still some buttons to push and some things to figure out. And maybe this offense just looks better if it's Jaden Knott and Tory Blaylock running the ball. But I'm concerned. I'm not panicked, but it wasn't great. Today wasn't great.
No, it wasn't great. And on the whole, I'm reserving judgment on the offensive line because obviously, in its ideal form, Oklahoma's offensive line does not have Luke Baklenko at left
Right,
tackle.
right.
It does not have true freshman Ryan Foje, even though I think he's going to be really good
Mhm.
at guard. Probably doesn't have Logan Howland at right tackle, at least not right away. That's Derek Simmons' job and has been all offseason. And so, with the knowledge that Oklahoma had 3 of 5 starters up front on that offensive line that were not out there tonight, at least not for very long in Sexton's case, I don't feel like I can adequately judge the product that was put out there on the field tonight in the trenches for Oklahoma. What I do feel like I can judge is the running backs because despite what happened up front, despite the mediocrity of the offensive line, and it was just a really mediocre night for that group. It was stark to me the difference between what Tory Blaylock was able to do with his 8 touches and what Javante Barnes and Xavier Robinson, 2 much more experienced guys, did with their touches. Barnes had 7 carries for 9 yards. Robinson had 8 carries for 17 yards. So I mean, you can't help but wonder what was Blaylock seeing? What was he getting that just wasn't clicking for Barnes and Robinson? And maybe they just had an off night. Like it happens. I'm not going to overreact to week one, but if I did have a week one overreaction, Jesse, it'd be that Tory Blaylock might be Oklahoma's best option at running back.
He might be, but Parker, and I don't want to get down a rabbit hole, but Parker, I have to wonder what the thought was at running back. I just have so many questions, and yet I know it's
Well, and
Illinois State.
I should clarify before we go any further. Best option at running back, with the exception of Jaden Knott. I'm
Yes.
still of the opinion, obviously, that Jaden Knott is the guy. Him getting 1 carry tonight does nothing to change my mind in that regard. Even though, like I said, it was just weird that your prized offseason transfer acquisition at running back was active and available, but you didn't put him on the field offensively until the fourth quarter. And then when you did, you only gave him 1 carry.
Not only active and available, you put him out there on the very first play of the game as a kick returner.
Yep.
So it's not like we're just holding him out to be like you special teams is the most violent, most injury potential play of anything in football. It just is. So you're clearly comfortable putting him out there. And to me, like I know it's Illinois State, and if you want to reward guys for having good fall camps or being available or whatever the case is, I'm not saying I don't get it, but to me, Parker, this was like your one chance to get stuff on tape. Yeah, it's a vanilla game plan, but to get guys on the field against another opponent before Michigan comes to town. And the response to that was to start Javante Barnes, give him seven carries that go nowhere when Tory Blaylock just looked like a better option. And even if you don't want to start Jade Knott, for whatever the case is, you want to be cautious. He's whatever. I don't understand. Like to me, I don't see the thought process. If they're wanting to make him the guy for the Michigan game, why not put him in the game before the fourth quarter and why only give him 1 carry? Like there is a huge amount of middle ground between not playing him before the fourth quarter and or like giving him 30 carries and not playing him until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
I really don't know what good 1 carry does a guy. If you want to get him ramped up for Michigan, give him 8 or 10. If you want to hold him out, hold him out.
Right.
What good does 1 carry do? You know?
No, so that's to me like I just yeah, it would have made more sense to not play him at all as opposed to what OU did was you give him 1 carry in the fourth quarter. So like there's stock to put in this because Tory Blaylock legitimately looked good, but you had one shot, you had one game to get some guys on the field before Michigan comes to town, and now are they just going to give Jaden Knott the the bulk of the touches next week. It's like, look, OU won 35-3. It's not about trying to find things to complain about. It's I don't fully see the thought process there. I just don't.
Tory Blaylock ran with a sense of energy that I don't know that I've seen or felt from an OU running back since Eric Gray. And who knows whether it carries over? Who knows whether we see the same thing next week or the week after? But like, if we're just talking about this game and this game only, I walked away very impressed with Tory Blaylock. Very impressed. Fully convinced that that is a guy that's not going anywhere in the backfield rotation moving forward. Speaking of stock, Jesse, are you buying Jaron Canick stock? Because he did fumble tonight, which wasn't great. Going to have to hold on to the football, obviously. Can't have turnovers. But once that fumble was out of the way, man, and that, first offensive game of the kid's career, and as Ben Arbuckle said, I told him stuff happens. I still trust you. But after Jaron Canick got the fumble out of his system, it seemed, he looked like a weapon, man. He was a guy that was getting open continually, whether the ball found him or not. Wound up with 5 catches for 90 yards. More receiving yards for an Oklahoma tight end than anybody at that position since Braden Willis in October of 2022. So again, the obvious caveat here is, yes, it's Illinois State, but I walked away tonight thinking, oh, you might have something at tight end in Jaron Canick because he gets open.
The thing I thought, especially on the fumble and a couple times he got the ball, is like, you know how if you ever go to a basketball court and it's like you can tell if there's somebody out there that's a football player playing basketball. He looked like a defensive guy playing offense, especially on that fumble, because it was a good hit, but he got hit and fumbled. So it's almost like a defensive guy playing offense. So like that crossed my mind a couple of times, but yeah, if you're talking about what you can put stock into, it's Jaren Kanak outside of that fumble looking like a guy that plays tight end. And not only that, but like a couple of those routes were really, really good. He had a 48-yard reception. It was the longest play of scrimmage from either team. And I thought Mateer actually missed him on a couple of balls too, where he was open. To me, I thought he just is if the goal or if the idea was for Jaren Kanak to be this perfectly crafted offensive machine and just smooth as can be, like, no, that's not realistic. But everything he showed tonight, his route running, his blocking, just his instincts as an offensive player, yeah, if you're talking about stuff to put stock into, I mean, I do. Bauer Sharp led the team with 324 receiving yards last year. Jaren Kanak had 90 today. So again, if you're comparing stuff from last year to this year, does that mean Jaren Kanak's going to have 1,000 yards? Probably not. But I actually, if you had told me he was going to have 90 receiving yards and the longest play from scrimmage on the day before the game, I wouldn't have believed that. And I went from being, let's say, skeptical that he could be a real weapon in this offense to being like, oh, is he like a guy that could actually be a weapon? And maybe it's just Illinois State, and maybe, but it actually did change my perception on this a little bit.
Yeah, and again, my whole thought was the guy is getting open consistently. Like, he's getting open. And Brent Venables mentioned in his post-game press conference, he's played defense. So that helps him get open. Mm-hmm. Like, he knows what he's looking at. And, man, I'll say this. I would rather Jaren Kanak have gotten that fumble out of his system against Illinois State than next week against Michigan or September 20th against Auburn. Like, if he's going to make that mistake, you would like for it to happen in the most low-pressure football game of the season. And that's what this was. I would be willing to wager that moving forward, Jaren Kanak is going to spare an extra thought for ball security every single time the pigskin is in his hands.
Well, speaking, like, that's the whole point of why we're like, yes, it's Illinois State. Yes, it's an FCS opponent. But, like, these games are still valuable specifically for guys like Jaren Kanak. And that's why, like, to me, you can't just throw away any game. Like, that's why even with the running back rotation, that's why, like, to me, stuff like that doesn't make sense. Don't just throw away games where you can get guys reps and get them comfortable. And like Jaren Kanak is the prime example of that. He does the one thing that you might have predicted a guy going from linebacker to tight end to do, which is fumble on his first career reception, which is what he did. The first time he gets hit, he fumbles the ball. Then what did he do after that? He not only bounced back with 90 receiving yards, he had the longest play from scrimmage and looked good. That's what games like this can be helpful for, right? That's my mini rant. Sorry. That's my mini rant.
John Mateer likes him some Keontez Lewis. How about that? Like I figured, okay, week one, Sooners are going to open it up, obviously, offensively. They'll be firing the ball around the yard. And we did see that tonight. John Mateer threw the ball almost 40 times. But I kind of figured, okay, he's going to be looking for the guys that he trusts. And we know, based on fall camp intel and what we've seen with our own two eyes, he trusts Isaiah Satania and he trusts Deion Burks. Well, I think we learned tonight he's got a lot of trust in Keontez Lewis as well. And I see why. The Southern Illinois transfer finished this contest with 9 catches for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. Led Oklahoma in every major
Every
receiving
category.
category. Yeah. And looked
Targets too.
great too. Like it wasn't just, oh, he's a volume receiver putting up numbers because it's Illinois. No, like, he looked good.
11 targets for Keontez Lewis. Deion Burks was second with 7. Like to me, I put stock into that. Again, I'm wondering, especially at that X receiver spot, you see, I mean, that's where Giovanni Gibson would go, right? So like to
Mhm.
me, I'm going into this thinking, well, Keontez Lewis had a really good camp. He's gotten that spot because he had a really good camp and he was available. But when Giovanni Gibson comes back, what does that look like for Keontez and the rest of that group? I mean, I put stock into not only him leading the team in every category, I put stock into 11 targets, Parker. And to me, I mean, both his touchdowns were 20 yards or more. They used him deep down the field. They used him in the intermediate routes. Like to me, I mean, yeah, is he going to have 1,000 yards on the season? Probably not. But like, I was not only impressed with what he did, but that connection with John Mateer specifically. It looked comfortable. It looked like they had established a real chemistry there. And again, the caveat is Illinois State. He led the team in every category, in every receiving category, including targets. I put some stock into that. I
Yeah,
do.
well, just watching him play tonight, eye test alone. Another thought I had was if this is how good Keontez Lewis looks, how much better is Giovanni Gibson going to look?
Yeah.
Like if the word throughout spring was Giovanni Gibson is by far the best wide receiver on the football team. Like if that's how good Keontez Lewis looks, how good is Giovanni Gibson going to be when he gets back healthy? It's an exciting thought. And he dressed out tonight. He didn't play, but Giovanni Gibson dressed out. He's getting closer and closer.
The other thing I would note too, just quickly, is that OU didn't rotate a ton of guys in at receiver, even for
No, they
even against an
didn't.
FCS opponent. They didn't. Like we didn't see very much Zion Kearney, Ivan Carry on. I mean, we didn't see a ton of guys. Like so, to me, that tells me Keontez Lewis is a very very firm part of this rotation, even when Giovanni Gibson comes back.
And they have a lot of trust. Not only John Mateer, but the coaching staff has a lot of trust in those 3 guys that played the majority of the snaps in Burks, Satania, and Lewis.
The one thing I expected a little bit more from Satania in the slot. I think that's the one thing. I mean, he had 2 catches for 16 yards. I expected to see him be a little bit more involved. It's week one. That's the kind of stuff. Like it's week one. You don't put that much stock into it. I will say Satania as a punt returner looks like he has some juice. I will
Oh
say that.
my goodness,
I'll
man.
say that.
Like I that was different. Like that was the most different experience of the night. Perhaps even more so than watching John Mateer operate with the memories of Jackson Arnold replaying in your head. And like that was just different. Different than any Oklahoma returner that I've seen in the last decade plus, Jesse. Isaiah Satania, that dude can move as a returner.
He
And
averaged
he's just got
16 yards a return.
and he's just got the instinct for it. You know, it's one thing to be fast and agile, but he's got the instinct that you have to have as a returner to navigate the field properly on
No,
returns. And
not only the instinct but the aggressiveness. He's looking for big plays. He had one Parker where the ball bounce, bounce, bounce. It was on the left sideline, bounce, bounce, bounce. He goes and gets it, and then he had a juke move where he stutter steps right and took up the field left. And it's like, oh, he's like looking for big plays, like and just has, and like you said, the instinct to do it.
He's going to house one at some point this year. I believe that wholeheartedly. And I I think he could house multiple, man. Like that is easily already. Don't have to see any more than what the 4 or 5 returns we saw tonight from Isaiah Satania. That is the most dynamic returner that I have seen at Oklahoma in my time on this beat. It's not close either. It's really not close.
You see the difference even with, like when we saw Peyton Bowen, who we know was really good in high school as a punt returner, but like seeing him or seeing like Billy Bowman, there's just even like these really athletic guys that are like high IQ guys. There's just a different special being a good punt returner is just a different it's just a different gear. It's a different skill set. And like you could just when you watch okay, it's Illinois State. I'll say that for the millionth time. When you watch him, like there's just you can tell like, oh, that's a guy that's not only comfortable, but like gets it and wants it. It's just different. It's a different his longest punt return was 21 yards.
Well,
And he
his
averaged
longest punt
16.
return was like 60, but it got called back.
It got called back. I feel pretty. I actually I would I think it's more likely he has multiple than he has zero.
Dude, the acceleration is remarkable. I think that's maybe what makes it pop is that he just goes 0 to 60 so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can get it to fifth gear in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he's coming back uphill in fifth gear, man, if you over pursue, forget it.
Yeah. I mean, he just has the IQ. Like he has the IQ to combine with the twitch, the speed. I really think that. I mean, I think Michigan. I actually think that's. I went from not even really thinking about it that much because he did it at Arkansas. To I'm actually wondering going into the Michigan game is that could a big return be the difference? And that is just a factor that we have not really thought about with OU in quite some time, like having a guy, potentially a guy as a punt returner. I mean, it's been a while since it's like, oh, is that something you're really thinking about when you're analyzing a weekend matchup?
Defensively, once again, it was Illinois State,
Mm-hmm.
but they looked pretty good other than surrendering those few chunk runs. And, talking to a few of the players after the game, they understand even before watching the tape what they need to clean up in order to make sure things like that don't happen moving forward. And they can't happen next week because Michigan has a really, really talented running back in Justice Haynes that they're going to bring to Norman. So not going to be able to leave lanes that wide in the running game. And so you'd expect that those type of chunk plays become less frequent. And that's evidence that even a defense as strong as this one and as experienced as this one, they're still going to be working out kinks in week one. Illinois State got almost nothing through the air, almost nothing. And Robert Spears Jennings barely played. Saw a lot of Michael Boganowski in the back end of that secondary, a lot of Reggie Powers as well. And I'm starting to get excited about that guy. Reggie Powers. He laid a couple hits tonight that made you go, oh.
Now you see why Brent Venables said we got to get that guy on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Because I loved there's a couple things I loved. I mean, even early in the game, Parker, we were seeing personnel groups that included Reggie Powers, Peyton Bowen, Michael Boganowski, Kendall Daniels, like all on the field. These guys that can play safety, that can play cheetah, putting these guys on the field. Then you see, oh, this is the difference in Venables having guys that he's recruited for his scheme specifically, these versatile guys. Parker, I think I would be more worried if the secondary gave up big chunk plays. That would worry me more because even with Robert Spears Jennings not playing that much, even with Eli Bowen being out, Kendall Dolby being out, like if the secondary got lit up or gave up big chunk plays, that would concern me more because that would feel inherently less fixable or more troubling, maybe more of a long-term issue to me than the running game, and then the defensive line giving up a few chunk plays. I mean, Illinois State had 34 passing yards He
Yeah.
averaged 3.4 yards per completion. Courtland Guillory was awesome.
He was,
And
man. He's a dog.
yeah,
Second
he
true
is.
freshman in program history to
Hmm.
start a season opener at cornerback for Oklahoma. So that right there tells you he's already in rare air. But man, I got so excited. Obviously, and we already were so excited about Courtland Guillory based on what we had heard throughout the offseason. But I got so excited watching that kid tonight to think about not only what he's going to provide to Oklahoma the rest of the way as a true freshman in 2025, but like what is junior, senior year Courtland Guillory going to look like? He might actually be the best cornerback in college football at that point
I think
because
yeah, he has. I mean, my favorite moment, Parker, was he gets called for that PI that was, let's say, questionable. That PI
questionable at
and
best.
questionable at best, and then it was 3 or 4 plays later on a crucial third down gets that pass breakup. So not only gets the penalty, but they leave him on the field. He's able to come back, have a big play a few plays later. You see why Venables is so hyped and why this coaching staff is so hyped about this
He's
kid.
fearless, man. Absolutely fearless. And that's the same word that you could apply to Gentry Williams and to Eli Bowen as well. And those three sit atop the depth chart right now at Oklahoma for cornerback. We'll see what happens with Davon Jordan, with Jeremiah Newcomb, with Jacoby Johnson. There's a case to be made for all those guys within the rotation. But there's a common denominator with Gentry, with Eli Bowen, and with Courtland Guillory, and it is absolutely fearless nature to their play at cornerback. Loved watching him tonight. And I agree with you. Surrendering chunk plays on the ground, that feels like something that's going to be very fixable for this Oklahoma front because we know how good they are. We know how good they have demonstrated themselves to be in the past. And no, okay, you don't have Danny Stutzman anymore. But I thought Samuel Masigo had a nice night,
Hmm.
had a career high in tackles.
Hmm.
And obviously, he did that in a reserve capacity because Kobe McKenzie drew the start at middle linebacker. Loved how Oklahoma was able to kind of move around Kendall Daniels and just the imposing presence that he provides there at that cheetah spot. I, I don't feel any, and like in a broad sense, I guess, like I said, I don't feel any better or worse about this team after this game than did before. But I certainly don't feel any worse about this defense, even though we did see them give up a couple of long runs that they would probably like to have back. Because other than that, man, they played lights out. You said it, 34 passing yards. And if indeed that secondary is a step ahead of the run defense, I love that. Like I think that's where Oklahoma should want to be to start the season. If your secondary is leading the charge and you're trying to shore things up, you're trying to fill the gaps up front when it comes to defending the run. Man, that feels so much more fixable, so much more easily remedied than secondary issues at Oklahoma because we've seen this program experience secondary issues in the past and they're not fun issues to deal with,
I,
Jesse.
I I think the best way to really symbolize this, Parker, is that 73 by my quick maths. So Illinois State had 117 rushing yards tonight. 73 of those came on 4 plays. So take out those 4 plays, they had 22 carries for 44 yards. So to me, again, it's not only would the run defense just be inherently more fixable because this was a unit that was really good against the run a year ago, but to me, it's even that's just indicator that the run defense actually was pretty dang solid for most of the night outside of 3 or 4 plays. So even to me, this isn't even fixable. It's just correcting a specific play here or there, but it wasn't an issue the entire night. And yeah, to me, I mean, Illinois State had 37 yards in the second half. To me, I would have been concerned if the secondary was giving up issues or was giving up plays and had issues. They didn't. Now, are they going to are they going to have more of a threat, obviously, next week with Bryce Underwood and this Michigan team? Like, sure. But I feel pretty confident already that Courtland Guillory by himself gives this cornerback room more depth and more talent than the guys outside of Eli Bowen could do
What a
last year.
godsend that kid appears to be for this Oklahoma secondary because I don't know. I don't know that Oklahoma missed Eli Bowen tonight. Obviously, they will miss him in the long term. You're going to want that guy active,
Mhm.
and Oklahoma expects to have him active by the time conference play rolls around. But for tonight, Courtland Guillory played every bit as well as OU fans would have expected Eli Bowen to play. No question about it. Well, folks, look, here's the deal. We're not going to try to convince you to start guzzling the Crimson Kool-Aid, nor are we going to tell you things suck when they don't. And even if you're not satisfied with a 32-point victory to open the season, things certainly did not suck tonight for Oklahoma. That was a team that looked pretty solid on both sides of the ball. We'll know a lot more come next week when the Sooners host Michigan at the Palace on the Prairie in a primetime matchup that looms large for both programs. We will have you covered all week leading up to that contest over at OUinsider.com, which is where you should subscribe. If you haven't already, try us out. Get your first week for just $1. No commitment beyond that. It's a 7-day trial, $1. Check us out. You don't like us, you don't have to stick around, but we'll give you plenty of reasons to stick around with all of the content that we're providing to Sooner fans every single day on the site. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It does nothing in terms of putting you on an email list or signing you up for text notifications or whatever. All it does is just makes our lives a little bit easier and a little bit better. So please do us a favor, hit subscribe. If you're listening on whatever podcast platform, do hit that subscribe button, regardless of where you get your podcasts, to make sure you never miss a new installment, I should say, of the Under the Visor podcast. It is almost 1 in the morning, folks. We're going to call it an evening, and we will do it all again next week when the Sooners host Michigan. For Jesse Crittenden, I am Parker Thune. Take it easy, everybody.